Hello, everybody. Welcome to one more exciting session on Azure Storage Accounts. In this particular session, we will discuss about Azure Data Lake and Table Storage. First, let us see about Azure Data Lake. Okay. Now, what is a data lake? A data lake, very simply, we can say that it is a service used for analytics. Okay, a data lake we can call it as a analytics service. So Azure Data Lake is basically, so there are two types of generations. Now we only use Azure Data Lake Gen 2. Okay, it is a data storage solution that is designed for big data analytics. Okay, now the definition that Azure gives is that Azure Data Lake is a Microsoft service that is built for simplifying a big data storage and analytics. It is a system for storing vast amounts of data in its original format for processing and running analytics. So that means data is stored in the raw format without making any changes. Now, why it has to store the data in the raw format? Because it is useful for developers, data scientists, and data analytics as it simplifies the data management and processing. Azure Data Lake offers a seamless integration and its optional solution for productivity and scalability challenges faced by the organization. So that is what a data lake is basically is. Okay. And to continue a little bit more on Azure Data Lake, we can say a data lake is also a centralized repository for storing vast amounts of raw data in its original format for a data engineer. Now you can store an unstructured data, a structured data, or a semi-structured data in its native form for processing and in-depth analysis. Data Lake provides unlimited storage space without any restriction on file size or data access. It supports metadata extraction, indexing, formatting, and conversion, segregation, aggregation, and cross-linking. So these are all the features that comes with Azure Data Lake. Okay, as it is said, it is basically built for big data analytics. So data can be ingested from huge number of sources. Okay, and now does this have any file system? Yes. And Azure Data Lake has a file system. Actually, it has multiple file systems. One is called as ABFS, which stands for Azure Blob File System. Okay, and over SSL, the same thing is called as, if it is secured, it is called as ABFSS. Okay, this is our SSL. Okay, we use ABFSS in future. When we learn Azure, Databricks, Synapse, we will use ABFSS to access the files which are there in Azure file system. Now because there's a file system, now let us say if this is a data lake. Now data lake can have a hierarchical architecture. What does that mean? Let's say in a data lake I can create, let's say, a container. Okay, we can create another container. So under each container I can have, let's say, folder 1, again a folder 2. Okay, inside this folder I can have a text file, I can have another folder as well. So a data lake brings a hierarchical architecture where you can store your files and organize your data better. That is what a data lake, one of the feature of data lake is that you'll have a hierarchical architecture. Now let us see a couple of more features of data lake. As we discussed, data in a data lake is stored in a raw format. Now, data lake supports massive parallel operations. That is one of the feature of data lake. It supports massive parallel operations, and data ingestion comes from variety of sources. It can be a CRM, it can be a SQL database, it can be applications, it can be flat files. Data can come from variety of sources, and data lake supports different analysis tools, like you can connect with a Power BI, you can connect with any other analysis tools. And you should not mistake, data lake is not a data warehouse. Now, why I'm saying data lake is not a data warehouse? Because in a data lake you can have any type of data, but in a data warehouse you'll have only kind of predefined data which has some kind of structure. In a data lake you don't define like, hey, your data should be like this, right? And you cannot create tables like how you create in your data warehouse on a data lake. So data lake has its different use cases, and data warehouse has different use cases. Now we can say Azure Data Lake is simply an extension of Azure Blob Storage with a hierarchical namespace. That means in a blob storage, we cannot create a folder like structure, but where on a data lake, because it is having a file system that we have discussed few minutes back, we can create a hierarchical namespace on a Azure Data Lake. We will see that once you do the hands-on. Now, a data lake can also have access to HDFS, that is Hadoop distributed file system. And you can simply call an Azure Data Lake as a PaaS service. All right. This is what an Azure Data Lake is. Now let us go and do some hands-on exercise. Let us create a Azure Data Lake, and let's create that folder structure and see the difference between Blob and Azure Data Lake. And we'll also connect the data which is there in a data lake to a Power BI. Let me switch to my Azure console for that. I am on my Azure console. Now let what we need to create, we need to create a data lake. So if we have to create a data lake, first of all, we have to create a storage account, because data lake is also one of the service in the storage account. Let me select this option called as create. Okay, now as usual, let us create a subscription. I will use Visual Studio subscription. I will use the resource group as demo. And in the storage account name, I'll put data lake demo level. Okay, that's my data lake. And I'm choosing my data lake to be in a region called as East US, and LRS is fine for me. Now, till now, every time we create a storage account, we selected these options and created. Now, let us select the option called as advanced. Now, if you scroll down here, you see there's an option called as Data Lake Gen 2. Okay, it is saying Data Lake Gen 2 hierarchical namespace accelerates big data analytics workloads and enables file level access control list. So if we create this, we can have access at a file level as well. Now all that you need to do is that select this option, enable hierarchical namespace. Okay, select that option and then select a review. Okay, once it reviews our configuration, we can select create. Okay, now whatever storage that is creating, it is having the capability of a data lake gen 2. So this is basically data lake gen 2 is what we are going to create. So we don't use data lake gen 1 anymore. It is going to be end of support in a month or so. So all that we are going to create is data lake gen 2. The deployment is in progress now. Now the resource is created. Let me go to the resource here. Okay, now if I go into the containers, now if you see, you have same options again, containers, but if you see here, data lake storage hierarchical namespace is enabled. Okay, now let's go to containers. Let's create a container by name data. Let's say data lake. Select option create. Now, if you see here, let me go into this data lake. Now you see there's an option called as add directory. Now let me go to the normal storage account that we have created and show, let's see whether this option add directory is there or not. Let me go to home, storage accounts. Now level up demo account, go to containers. Now we have this container called as level up new. Select this. Now you see there is no that option called as directory. Okay. So that is only there because we have enabled hierarchical namespace on the data lake. That is the reason we will see that. Now let's go here. Let me go to data lake. Now I can add a directory. I can say January. Save. Alright. Inside January folder, I want to add another directory for all the weeks. Let's say week 1. So all the week 1 data I'll put in week 1. Let me add another directory. Week 2. Add another directory. Week 3. Etc. Okay. Now let's say I want to go to data lake. Now you can see the folder called as Jan. Here I can add another folder by name Feb. Save. Now inside this Feb, I can add again directory week 1. That means let's say if it is a sales data, I want to organize my data. I want to organize my sales data based on the weeks and the months and the years. Then this is how we can organize, because we can create a folder like structure or a folder structure because it is having a hierarchical namespace. Now if you see, I have Feb, Jan, inside Feb, I have weeks. Now let's say inside this week, I can have directory like Monday or day 1, etc. So your data will be well organized, and in the future classes we will see how to query the data, how to connect this to Synapse Analytics, and how to query the data week wise, month wise, year wise. We can do that. Okay, we will see that in the later stages. But for now, let me upload one file. Select option upload. Go here and desktop CSV files. Okay, let me upload. Okay, some population data. Let me open, upload. Okay, now my data is there in data lake. Let us say that I want to connect this data to one of the visualization tools, which is Power BI. Okay, let me open Power BI. Okay, this is my Power BI desktop. Now all that you need to do is that select this option get data. Okay, and select this option more. So you see you can get the data from all these options. Let's say more. It will show us a couple of more options. Now you see there's an option called as Azure here. Select Azure. Now you can get data from multiple places from Azure. Okay, it can be a database, it can be data warehouse, etc. etc. Now I want to get the data from Azure Data Lake Gen 2. Select this, select option connect. Now it is asking for a URL to connect. Let us give that. Now where we can get this URL? Let me go back to my Azure storage account. Now you see this population.csv, it has a URL, right? Let me copy this URL. Let's come back and give this URL here. Now let's click OK. Now it is asking, how do you want to connect? Let's say I want to connect with account key. Okay. Now you all know how to bring an account key. Let's say this is my data lake. Okay. Now if you go into this access keys, you have an account key here. Copy that. It is copied. Go back and give the account key here. Once you give the account key, select the option connect. Now we see as soon as we connect, we can see all the data which is there in Azure Blob Storage. We can see here. Now all we can if you want to load, we can load the data, or if you want to transform, we can transform the data. Let us say load. We can see it is creating, loading the data. Okay, it is having some errors, that is okay. Now if you see the population here, we can see all the data here. Okay, now you can right click, you can create a new column, edit query, you whatever queries that we want, we can create that. All right, let's say new column, we have to give a column name, etc, etc. I don't want to create that now. So basically that is how we connect the data which is there in data lake to the Power BI dashboard, Power BI desktop, which is one of the visualization tools. All right. So that is all about data lake. So we discussed about how to create a data lake, how to connect a data lake to to Power BI, and then we understood what is a data lake, what are the features of data lake, etc. All right. Now let us go ahead and look into table storage on Azure. Now let me go to my presentation. Now, what is the Azure table storage? Now, Azure table storage, very simply, we can call it as a NoSQL storage, or we can call it as a semi-structured data, where we'll have that you can use for rapid development using massive semi-structured data sets. Okay, and Azure table storage provides a low latency and high throughput. So it is very simple. Azure tables are nothing but a NoSQL key value kind of a database. Now let us go ahead and create this Azure table storage, and let's add some data there, and let's see how easy it is to query the data in a Azure table storage. Now let me quickly shift to my Azure portal to show the demonstration. I'm on the Azure portal now. Let me go to my storage account. Now we have finished about containers. We looked into file shares. We looked into queues. Now we are going to look into table storage. Select the tables for that. Now it is very easy. You see on the top, select an option table. Give a table name. My database. All right. Select option OK. My table storage is created. Now if we select this, check this box, there will be option delete will be highlighted. I don't want to delete that. Now on the left you see there's an option called as storage browser. Select this option storage browser, and you'll have all the options here. Now I want to work with table, select option table. Okay, now here if you can see, if I want to add new tables, I can add that, or select option my database. Okay, now here it is giving us a option to add entities. Now let me add a couple of entities here. Now if you see, you have a couple of property names. By default you will see partition key and row key. Now here we can identify what should be the partition key, what should be the row key. Now let's say I want to say level up is the partition key. Okay, and Azure is a row key. It depends on us, what based on the data, whatever we feel like it should be partition key, we can add that, and whatever should be the row key, we should add it. And these are the two default properties which is there. Now we can add our own properties. Let's say I want to add a property like age, and the data type, let's say I want to put it as int 32. Okay, and let me put the age there, and let's say insert data. Okay, now you see an entity is added. Let me add a new entity here. Let's say first name, last name, age, uh, let's say, right, and let me put one more entity here. Okay, All right, so we can add this property only for this particular row. Now you see here, the first one does not have qualification, but the second one have. Okay, that is how we can keep on adding number of entities. Now let's say if there are lot of entities, let me add one more simple entity. Okay, let's put the age as 20 and the qualification as BTech. Okay, insert. Now we can also query this data from here. You see there's an option called as add filter. Let me click on this add filter. Let's say I want to query on the column age. Okay, and I can use different operators. Let's say I want to see the people who has age greater than 30. Apply. Now you see these two rows are displayed. Okay, now let me change this filter. I will change the column as age again, and I want to query the people whose age is less than 30. Okay, ideally only one row should be displayed. You see, it is very easy to query from here. Okay, let me add one more simple query. I want to query on the partition qualification. Okay, and I want to see the people who are basically MBA. Okay, and then apply. You see, I can only see this. So that is how you can query on a table storage. And you can also connect this to a Cosmos DB. We will see when we learn Cosmos DB how to connect a table storage to Cosmos DB and work with that. And let's say you want to edit the columns here. All that you need to do is that select option edit columns, and you can give the whatever names that you want to edit. You can just go ahead and edit the columns there. Okay, if you want to delete, you can delete and add. If you want to move the columns up and down, say move up, the column is up, right? So you can do a lot of uh, editing with the columns in the edit columns. All right, that is all about table storage on Azure storage account. Okay, now let us see one more thing. Till now we have created Azure storage account from a UI, but there are multiple ways how we can create a Azure storage. Okay, we can create Azure storage account from Azure portal. Second, we can create it from Azure CLI. Third, we can create from ARM templates. Okay, now let us look the other two ways how to create Azure storage. Now, how to go to Azure CLI? Very simple. On the Azure portal itself, there is an option here. Okay, you can simply select this cloud shell. Now, in this cloud shell, you can either run a bash command or you can run a PowerShell command. Okay, it is very simple. Now, let us see the CLI syntax to create a Azure storage. Now, let's go to Google. Azure CLI command to create storage account. Okay, now from the Azure CLI itself, from the Azure itself we can get all those commands. Now if you see here, there is this command Azure storage account create hyphen name storage account name, and what is the resource group, and what is the location, and what should be replication. Just select option, try it. Okay, you can sign in here. Next. You see, now it is running the continue with the account. So the cloud shell has opened here. Okay, we can run that syntax over here itself. Now all that we need to do is that let's copy this and then paste it, run this. Okay, resource group, my storage account is not there. I have a resource group by name demo. Enter. Let's do one thing. It is showing error. Let me go to the console and do that. Okay, let me go to the console. Let me clear it. What we'll do first, we'll create a resource group and then we'll create this. Okay. Let me go to the command to see how to create a resource group. Let's say exit focus mode. So this is how you need to basically search for the commands when you have to create. I'll say resource group. You see, AZ group create hyphen name resource group and location. Let me copy this. Let me paste. Enter. So this has basically created a resource group by name my resource. Now let us, so this is there in East US, right? So let me select East US. Okay, and the resource group name is my resource group. Okay, location hyphen L East US standard LRS. Let me enter this. Now basically a storage account by name my storage account will be created in this resource group. It is saying that my storage account name is already taken because storage account name should be globally unique, right? Now let me give a new name. Let's say I'm saying my storage account to demo. Enter. Okay, now you see it is creating a storage account for us. It is running. Now the storage account has been created successfully. This is one way creating a storage account from a CLI. Now let me go here, refresh this and see whether the storage account has been created or not. Let me reload. Reload. And we don't see that here yet. Now you see my storage account to demo, it is displayed here. Okay. So now we know how to create the storage account from the portal, from the command line. Now third one is called as ARM templates. So there is another way. So now let me show you one thing before I show that third option to you. Okay. When I'm creating any resource, right? Let's say I'm saying giving some default name. Okay, review. So how it is basically creating now this whatever options that I have selected, it will create some template. Okay. Now let's say as soon as I give create, it is showing initializing deployment. Okay. Now if I go to the deployment there, Yeah, deployment is in progress. Now if you see here, okay, now inputs template. Now if I go to template, basically it has generated a template. So this template is basically creating a storage account for us. Now you see in the resources, it is saying storage account name, okay, etc. etc. It is creating that template for us. Now we can directly create this template and run. So to develop the template, we can use something called as Azure Visual Studio Code. Okay, let me go there. Now this is my Azure Visual Studio Code. Okay, now let's say all I can do is that you see here, very simple. Okay, now I created a JSON file because this code is there in a JSON file. We have to go extensions and download an extension called as ARM. Okay, it's called as Azure ARM. Okay, you have to download an extension called as Azure ARM templates. Okay, the schemas are loading. Okay, in the extensions, go to extensions. Yeah, you see there is something called as Azure Resource Manager. Okay, I already have this, but if it is there, you guys have to do, for you guys it will be there install, you have to install it. Okay, so that is one thing which is mandate. Now what I'll do, so let's say I created something like this. I'll say new storage JSON. Okay, you have to create a JSON file like this. Now because it is intelligent enough, okay, now as soon as I give AR, it is showing me this. Now this template already has come here. Now this template is something looking like what we have seen when a storage account is creating, right? It has schema, functions, parameters, variables, resources, etc. Now let me go to resources and enter. Here let me type in ARM again. Okay, it will take a moment because the schemas are loading here. Now the schemas are loaded. Let me go back here and let me type in ARM again. Now here it is showing that what all resources that I can create with this particular template. Okay, almost all the resources that is there in Azure you can create. Now let's say we were speaking about Azure storage, right? Let me select Azure storage. All that I have to give is that, give a name. Everything is there ready-made. My new data store something. Okay, you can give that name. Once you give that name, okay, you can prepare a small shell script. Like we have to create a resource group, right? Mention the resource group name. Okay, Azure resource group hyphen name. This is a PowerShell script. Okay, previously what we have ran on the Azure console is a CLI, but this is a PowerShell. So now Azure resource, give a variable as, I have declared the variable as resource group, and the location is not here. Okay, and create a new deployment from this particular template. What is this template? New storage JSON. So whatever template that we have created, we can use that. Let me change the storage name. Okay, I can use the same storage name. There is no issues because I have already deleted this. Okay, now all that you need to do is that just run this PowerShell script. Okay, let's say dot slash script dot ps1. Enter. So this is basically script one. You see now it has created a resource group. Now we'll go and see on Azure once it creates the storage account. Okay, the first step is successful. It is running the second. Now you see The storage account is created successfully. Now let me go onto the Azure portal and see that. I'm the Azure portal, storage account. Yeah, this is what the storage account that is created. Is this the one? No, let me refresh this. This is the storage that is created. You see in the my demo RG, this is where it is created. All right. This is how you can work with storage accounts either from portal, either from command line or ARM templates. Directly you can create any resource. All right. Now let me recap what we have looked into this particular session. We understood about we understood about data lake, table storage, how to create storage account from portal, from Azure CLI, from Azure ARM. These are the topics that we have covered in this particular session. See you guys in the next session. Have a good time.